Yo, yo, yo! What's up, all you burners, stoners, and potheads? This is Weedman 420 with the Weedman 420 Chronicles. How are all you vipers doing out there? Mrs. Weedman.
Mr. Weedman.
How the hell are you?
Great.
I love it. I love it.
That's good.
Hey, everybody out there in the world. Hopefully you're smoking some big fat doinks while you're listening to the show. We're going to smoke some weed. Right, Mrs. Weedman?
Yeah, we
I'm
are.
ready.
I'm ready.
Ready. You know why I'm ready?
Why?
Another strain from our good friend Big Earl 217, and this strain is called Happy Hour.
Oh, we didn't try this yet.
No, we have not. I love Happy Hour.
Yeah?
Love Happy Hour. Love Happy Hour in general. 4 to 6,
This
5
is
to
our
7.
happy hour.
This is our happy hour. This is where our happy hour comes. So 9 to 11 is our happy hour. So why don't you take that bowl, that 8 Decades bowl that's in front of you, while I talk about this strain.
All
Happy Hour is a cannabis strain, which is a 50-50 sativa indica straight up hybrid. Happy Hour, also known is an evenly balanced hybrid strain created through crossing delicious strawberry jelly and the Don Mega strains. Now, I don't know. This was grown by Big Earl. I don't know who bred it. I'm just reading what I found out about Happy Hour. So I might get corrected by Big Earl, but this is what I'm finding out about it. The perfect choice to make any part of the day your personal happy hour. This bud packs lifted euphoric effects and will have you soaring for hours on end.
Whoa.
You feel instantly energized with a sense of happiness that immediately wipes away any bad moods of racing thoughts. A light physical calm comes next, dropping you into a pain-free zone that won't dampen your energy level in the slightest. A boost of creativity accompanies the full-bodied high, inspiring you both artistically and conversationally. Ooh. Thanks to these effects and its high to 20 to 22% average THC level, Happy Hour is often chosen to treat a variety of conditions, including chronic pain, insomnia, appetite loss or nausea, depression, inflammation, and chronic stress or anxiety. This bud has a sweet and sour citrusy lemon flavor with a hint of grassy woodiness upon exhale. The aroma is grassy and woody with fruity strawberry overtone that lingers long after the finished toking. Happy Hour buds have oversized pepper-shaped dark olive green nugs with thin orange hairs, deep purple undertones, and chunky white crystal trichomes. This bud that Big Earl gave us was phenomenal.
Was this the funky-looking bud?
No, that was the acai.
That was
The effects is body high, calming, creative, energizing, euphoria, happy, hungry, and uplifting. Great, hungry. We'll see how Mrs. Weedman feels after. Ooh, you going for the double-decker? Wow, look at you. Tree hits? Damn. You just want to get it on like Donkey Kong, huh?
I want to feel happy. That was a little
Some of the
last
symptoms it relieves is anxiety, appetite loss, chronic pain, depression, inflammation, insomnia, and stress. Flavors are berry, citrus, fruity, lemon, sour, and strawberry. Aromas is berry, citrus, grassy, sour, strawberry, and woody. I love when I find strains that have a lot of information about it, because the last couple I have not found a lot of information on it, and I feel bad for everyone out there wanting to know about some of these strains, just in case if they would like to find it somewhere. So I'm very excited this one had a lot of information about it.
You know, when they give the descriptions, because we all have a different cannabinoid system. Endocannabinoid system. So does everyone not universally, like, oh my God, I can't even make sense. Do we universally, have the same response? I mean, obviously it must be similar in most people because they're able to define the characteristics of the strain.
Yeah,
right?
I think.
But some people
people might feel something different. If it helps with their depression, that strain was good for their endocannabinoid system. That strain might help with just depression for them. Another strain might have helped with 3 or 4 ailments. It could have helped with one. It might have helped with nothing. It just depends on how your body reacts. Like I've always said, cheese strains, when I smoke them, they just make me feel funky as fuck, heady. I don't like it. I get paranoid. I don't even want to be near them. Cheese strains. But when I cook with cheese strains, when you bake with them, it's a totally different experience. It's a body high, pleasurable. I love it. Just a different effects between smoking it and eating it. Of course, we know it's two different
And I
ways.
like Kush strains.
You love Kush strains. But you also, cheese strains make you cry.
Cheese. Sounds like you're saying my chi.
Oh, your chi? Well,
My chi.
could be that too.
I need to get my chi on. But cheese strains for me, those are like that XJ13. That's a cheese? That's head cheese.
Head cheese made you fucking cry.
That makes me happy cry. Like
Yeah.
I laugh so hard I cry. And then I don't know what I'm feeling or
I
experiencing.
remember that one too.
It's bizarre.
So, but yeah, so it just depends. But this strain, wow. Ooh,
It's nice.
Very
It
nice.
is flavorful.
And I did put a new screen in the bowl too, just because I
yeah.
really wanted to try it and get the flavor of it all. So I'm
Pretty sweet.
You hit 3 hits.
I did.
I'm glad you don't go
We'll
first.
see what happens.
Actually, you should go first instead of second because it might like lay in on you. So, hey everybody out there, man. I hope you had a phenomenal New Year's. Mrs. Weedman and I went out. It's been a couple of years, right? Because of COVID, we didn't get to go out since 2019 to going into 2020. New Year's. We went to a great Southside bar in Blue Island called Rock Island Public House. It's probably the best dive bar south of the city. I would give that 100%.
Yeah, I wouldn't call it a dive bar. I mean, I think
would.
it
100% dive bar.
Well, I mean dive bar, but it's kind of like new school, old school. It's not like Hearts dive bar.
Yes,
that's what I'm saying.
But this
That's
is
what I'm
a
saying.
dive bar
It's intentional.
atmosphere.
It's really
Listen,
it's a cool vibe.
Any bar that has taxidermy all over the place is a fucking dive bar to me.
And then they've got like historical pictures.
Right,
of
it's a
Blue
dive
Island.
bar.
It's cool. It's cool.
The owners, Dave and Jen, would call themselves a dive bar.
Okay.
It's a dive bar
All
through
right.
and through. Pinball machines. It's a great bar.
It's sweet.
So if you've never been down there, go check it out. That's Rock Island Public House in Blue Island. Been there since 2013. They did a phenomenal job for their New Year's.
It was
They had a
super
great
sweet.
DJ playing all 80s music, a little bit of early 90s. And they also started off with some 50s too, 50s, 60s bebop, which was a lot of fun too. And then they went into straight 80s new wave, which was awesome. Brought us back to our high school days. So it was so much fun. Great crowd. It wasn't overcrowded. Good beer, good drinks, great food too. There's a great restaurant in there too. So go check it out. So good times. We brought the New Year down with us, and it was a lot of fun. So I was very, very high though.
Yeah, we didn't drink much.
No, I was
We
so
had like a
fucking
drink or
high.
two and then a champagne toast, and that was it.
I ate an edible,
Right.
and we smoked back to back
smoked a lot.
joints, back to back, like not like back to back, like one right after another. So we
Yeah.
smoked 2 between the 3 of us. There was only
Yeah.
3 of us smoking, so it was 3 of us that smoked monster doinkers.
Yeah.
That we smoked, and then like right before midnight, 11:45, we went out and smoked
We went out
another
and smoked
honker
again.
that I
We thought we were
rolled.
just gonna go take one quick hit.
We smoked
just-
that whole
we
thing. We actually
burned
there was
through it.
another one person with us, and they said no, thank you.
Yeah, she was like, "I'm done."
Yeah,
Yeah.
and she's a heavy smoker.
I think I tapped out before she did.
I think you both tapped out
Yeah,
at the
like
same
we're
time.
good.
So
Yeah, so I had nausea actually when I got home. I was like, oh,
Yeah, you oversmoked.
I oversmoked.
Yeah, we didn't pace ourselves. It's New Year's, so
Yeah.
and
it was fun.
and
I
New
woke
Year's
up. Hey, guess what though? I didn't wake up with a hangover.
No, you didn't.
Awesome.
No, I woke up and right to the couch and watched bad movies and got high and had
That's one of the
had
joys of cannabis.
Yeah, it's one of the joys of New
Yeah,
Year's
okay.
Day.
I overindulged, and probably if I just laid down for a half hour, I wouldn't have felt that way. But you go to sleep because it's time to go to sleep, and you wake up, and there's no residual
Nothing.
crappy feelings.
Nothing.
It's amazing.
Now hearing some of friends
the
of
other
ours
people who
that
drank?
went out and drank heavily, they didn't recoup until like Monday.
They were eating Big Macs at 1 o'clock in the afternoon when they finally crawled out of bed. It's probably what they were doing.
I was up.
My cure was always Taco Bell, personally.
Yeah,
For a hangover,
mine's
heck
just
yeah.
water. I don't want to eat food at all when I'm
Oh,
hungover.
you got to have something greasy.
Not till later. Weed and water.
Weed and water.
That's my hangover cure. So, anyway,
You're
happy
so holistic.
happy 2023 to everybody out there. Hopefully, your 2023 will be blessed and fulfilled and great. So, Mrs. Weedman,
Yeah,
you ready to start the show?
sure.
Let's get going.
All right.
Some weed predictions highly likely to come true in 2023. Call Pot Stradamus, this article, call him Pot Stradamus instead of Nostradamus, Pot Stradamus. Last year, they looked into the crystal bongs and correctly predicted the future of weed in America with 74% accuracy. And this is David Downs and Bruce Barcott were the writers of this. So they produced 74% accuracy. That's actually pretty
For
good.
their 2022 predictions?
Yes.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, that's
In a emerging industry?
Yeah, that's pretty good. Is its second sight? No, but Bruce and I have occupied weed news trenches for the combined 25-ish years. Trends follow clear trajectories, like, for example, the spread of legalization from east to west, or west to east, actually. Below, we outline our predictions for the next stages of federal and state legalization, how new strains, mushrooms, and CBD. We got 40 weed prognostications strongly likely to come true. That was a hard word. I got it right, though. Yes, I'm going to talk about psychedelics and mushrooms real quick before I go through this. A lot of new things are going to happen with mushrooms this year. Colorado is legalizing. You see mushrooms. It's going to be a big thing this year. 2023, you're going to see maybe states put it on their ballots or people fighting for it. It's
they're going to try to make it.
Legal.
They're going to put restrictions on it.
Well, Colorado is basically right now.
Because right now there's nothing illegal about having psychedelics. Right?
Oh yeah, there is.
Oh, it is legal.
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. It's a federal one charge for having.
How are all
LSD.
these companies selling shrooms, like medicinal shrooms?
Well, because they're not the psilocybin.
Microdose.
They're not the psilocybin shrooms. There's shrooms that are like the white lion shroom, the white lion's mane shroom, and all that different types of stuff. That's the stuff you're getting. You're not getting psilocybin mushrooms right now. Actually, that's not true. In Florida, you can buy. There's shops selling them right now. You're not the stuff you're buying online. You're buying in the containers and the pills is not psilocybin. Like they're trying to get you to buy that coffee mushroom stuff. There's no psychedelic. No,
I know
in
that.
There, okay, but there is people. California, Colorado, Florida. There's people starting to selling, and Colorado just went kind of legal research on psilocybin. Colorado's going to be the first one again to go legal. Okay, so with shrooms though, you're going to see more and more people doing them. Microdosing, like talking about it. I see some podcasters, cannabis podcasters, starting to move more into psychedelics now and starting to put that into their shows. I think it's great. I like shrooms. I've done them many times. They're fun. I don't know if I'll do them all the time. I don't know if I'll microdose all the time like some people are doing. I like them for socialization and going to a show. That's what I'm used to doing them at. I don't know if I just want to sit at home and take a shroom. I want to be out in the wilderness and the wild, when I take shrooms. I watch stuff melt and reform. Anyway, is it going to be a year for strains of year of Rainbow Sherbet 11 and Crosses, which is third, fourth generation Skittles work? The root beer strain is going to take off. Same with Top Cherry and Super Boof, Gastro Pop, as well as strains bred with the Y line are going to pop. The seed selling industry will go even crazier. Now the DEA said anything under 3% THC is just hemp, like birdseed. Everyone is going to have a seed brand. It's already, come on, man. That's already happening. The cannabis genetics golden era brightens further. We're going to get proof that some terpenes, aroma molecules in weed create outsized smell and effects relative to their amounts. We also learn about previously unclassified or unnamed molecules contributing to aroma and effect. Solventless live rosin is about to have even a bigger year. We anticipate hundreds of new dispensaries will open across dozens of new cities. Delivered services will spread. I'm going to throw this prediction, though. You're going to see a lot of dispensaries closing, too. So the East is going to be, this is me, the East is going to be the big pop, new dispensaries opening up, while you'll see stuff in the West start taking a shit. Las Vegas will leap to the forefront of cannabis consumption lounge trend. They're predicting that this is going to be bigger than the Netherlands. They're saying Vegas Strip is going to be fucking out of control with lounges, consumption lounges. New state licenses opened up in Sin City. Many with over-the-top design and luxury amenities we've come to expect from America's adult playground. At least one of the new lounges will partner with rideshare companies to return patrons safely home, let's be honest, to their hotels on the Strip. A mushroom backlash will begin after a high-profile incident amid the wave of charlatans exploiting the hype. New research papers on why shrooms help will come out, while also new research will come out on why they hurt. New cities will legalize or criminalize psychedelics. Other cities' legislators will stiffen penalties for psychedelics. Ketamine therapy will continue to grow more mainstream and begin to jump the shark. CBD, Delta 8, and beyond. CBD science will advance with new discoveries around medical effects or lack thereof. New studies will find some unhealthy compounds and effects in novel cannabinoids products like THC-O. New states are going to crack down on designer cannabinoids like Delta 8, hemp-derived Delta 9, and THCO and HHC, etc., etc. Some other predictions, pot prices will soften in Illinois, they're saying. A government-throttled legal supply will not meet demand. Pot prices will continue to fall in Michigan. Supplies appears to exceed demand there. Oklahoma medical cannabis enforcement will ramp up. Unbridled medical cannabis cultivation has drawn a backlash. Oregon illicit market enforcement will kick in. Illicit suppliers there flooded the legal market in 2022. Traditional market, as I like to call it. The world's biggest legal cannabis market, Los Angeles, will remain stalled with no meaningful increase in brick-and-mortar outlets and more equity lawsuits. California will not bring its traditional market under control. Of course not. As a result, California prices will remain low. New York is going to have a rough first year of legal license sales. Expect high prices, few stores, more lawsuits, dirty street weed, and continuing crackdowns on unlicensed sellers. A heavy-handed government rollout means demand far exceeds legal supply at few stores. An untested illicit market meets the rest of demand, and that spurs enforcement. Cannabis stocks will remain depressed. Yeah, tell me about it. High inflation has moderate cannabis sales and triggered high federal interest rates with depressed stocks, also depressing equities. No movement on legalization in Congress. Other states will follow. California's lead and create organic labels, like California's OCal program, a statewide certification program that establishes and enforces comparable to organic cannabis standards. More celebrity brands will launch. We'll be talking about one in a minute here. We'll see the first big celeb brand go bust. More aggrieved parties like Verisight New York One Inc. will challenge equity programs in court. The federal lawsuit that currently holds up dozens of equity licenses in New York may set a chilling precedent. New cases of lung injuries from tainted THC vape cartridges may come to light, most likely to limit EVALI outbreak in the prohibition states. The hemp-derived THC loopholes opened up major sales and marketing opportunities for vape cartridge manufacturers without any lab testing safeguards in place for consumers. Some federal reform. Congress will narrow the Farm Bill loophole that has allowed hemp-derived cannabinoids to flood prohibition states. The FDA will keep warning CBD sellers about false claims, but final FDA rules in CBD will not come out in 2023. 2023 will see no cannabis legalization bill pass Congress. Republicans take over control of the House, which means Republican committee chairs have the power to block any cannabis reform bills they don't like, even if the bills have enough floor votes. The House has passed the MORE Act, which would end federal cannabis prohibition twice in the past years, but the winning streak will end in 2023 as Democrats hand over control of the chamber or to Republicans. MORE Act co-sponsors will still have enough floor votes for House passage, but the measure won't make it to the floor in 2023. Boo. In the U.S. Senate, Democrats will still control the agenda, and they still won't have enough votes to pass legalization. Boo. Senator John Fetterman of PA will be both outspoken champion for legalization in the Senate. Rescheduling will be reviewed by the DOJ, but not decided on. There will be hearings. State legalization predictions. 2 states will try to do interstate commerce. Okay, we know California is trying to. So Oklahoma voters will pass adult use legalization in the statewide March 7, 2023 election. Nice. Minnesota state legislators will pass adult use legalization bill after 9 months. Hawaii legislature will finally pass a full adult use legalization bill. Good. Drug testing rules will relax in new legal states. There will be more class action lawsuits around THC potency. They're very appetizing to lawyers who like to write press releases, but they won't hold up in court. Lab standards are also variable. California will enact nation-leading lab testing standards through regulatory review. That's the predictions by these 2 writers. Some pretty good ones.
Pretty good.
There. Yeah. The stoner stereotype, it keeps shifting and shifting and shifting. I always say there's no such thing as a lazy stoner, just lazy people. So tell us why, Mrs. Weedman.
All right. Country music's conservative retort to the 1960s counterculture movement, Merle Haggard, recorded a string of reactionary anthems in the early 1970s, part of the backlash to the Great Society and the civil rights movement that then President Richard Nixon deliberately stoked to eke out a narrow election in 1968. Haggard poked fun at the use of drugs, including cannabis, in songs like Okie from Muskogee, as well as perceived shiftiness in the welfare state through the song Working Man Blues. Haggard also, as author Josiah Hess documented in Runner's High, fueled a then innovative way to denigrate and marginalize cannabis use. Helped along by other blurry-eyed, shifty representations in film and music, Merle Haggard helped create the myth of the lazy stoner. This is indeed a myth, as recent It is indeed a myth, as recent research shows. Yet it is one that refuses to die, despite repeated debunking. For at least a century and going, weed has been a handy weapon in the culture war. Instead of vanishing, the anti-cannabis hysteria evolves with the times. Today, as legalization grows more popular than any politician, anti-cannabis sentiment appears to be shifting gears yet again. So it's worthwhile to review the full arc of history in order to preview the next possible propaganda cycle. Lazy stoners, right? Bounced around the news cycle this past fall. Lazy stoners was back in the news. Researchers at the University of Cambridge in the United Kingdom discovered that, based on a survey of 274 adolescent and adult cannabis users who were asked to rate their feelings of apathy and enjoyment, they discovered that you can smoke weed every day and enjoy life as much or as little as people who abstain. They discovered this much to their astonishment. We were surprised to see that there was a very little difference between cannabis users and non-users when it came to lack of motivation or lack of enjoyment, even among those who used cannabis every day. Martine Skumlin, a PhD candidate at the University of Cambridge Department of Psychiatry, was quoted in a news release as saying, "This is contrary to the stereotypical portrayal we see on TV and in the movies. You can thank pop culture for perpetuating this myth, but science isn't helping. Other studies have found evidence for amotivational syndrome, first described in American scientific literature in 1968. The Cambridge research followed a 2021 study published in the Harm Reduction Journal, which found light and moderate cannabis users to be more physically active than non-users. If Skumlin and her colleagues missed this earlier research, it would explain their surprise. They noted, limited scientific evidence exists to support the claim that cannabis use is linked to amotivational syndrome. This means the lazy stoner myth has been a political and cultural creation. The modern-day shiftless stoner theme does appear to have entered the American cultural consciousness in the Nixon era, when Merle Haggard was slagged on hippies wearing sandals and using LSD rather than cowboy boots and moonshine, because that's better, you know. As mentioned before, the first appearance of cannabis as a motivator appeared in American scientific literature in 1968. The following year, in his first year as president, Nixon convened a blue ribbon panel, supposedly to study the cannabis question. The president saw the commission as a means to establish the dangers of cannabis, a job that would demonize and marginalize Nixon's political enemies, the anti-war movement, and people of color, as Robert Solomon, a professor of law at the University of California, Irvine, wrote in a 2020 journal article. This quote came years later from John Ehrlichman, a top Nixon advisor. He said, "We knew we couldn't make it illegal to be either against the war or black. But by getting the public to associate the hippies with marijuana and blacks with heroin, and then criminalizing both heavily, we would disrupt those communities." Ehrlichman is quoted as telling a Harper's Magazine writer in 1994, though the interview did not appear in public until 2016. "We could arrest their leaders, raid their homes, break up their meetings, and vilify them night after night on the evening news. Did we know we were lying about the drugs? Of course we did. It was just an easy way to smear the counterculture," says Martin A. Lee, an author and historian of a popular history on LSD, as well as Smoke Signals, a social history of marijuana. Even casual scholars of cannabis history will tell you, in creating the moral panic required to get Congress to pass the Controlled Substances Act, Nixon and Ehrlichman were following a familiar script, albeit one they tinkered with appropriately. 40 years before his time, Harry Anslinger, the United States' first drug czar, and head of the Federal Bureau of Narcotics, launched another scare campaign to pressure Congress into passing the Marijuana Tax Act. Back then, far from making users lazy, cannabis was portrayed as some kind of demon loco weed, one that inspires Negroes, Hispanics, Filipinos, and entertainers to create satanic music, jazz and swing, and white women to seek sexual relations with Negroes, entertainers, and others. What the frick? That's so crazy. Anslinger himself, Asslinger, was unoriginal. He borrowed his line from the newspaper magnate William Randolph Hearst, whose papers spread the fake news that weed led to murder and insanity. A paper once claimed that you could grow enough cannabis in a single window planter to drive the whole population of the United States stark raving mad. Yes, this is what people were told. These were the great fears of the time, Solomon told Cannabis Now in an interview. What politicians' shifting demonization of cannabis reveals is the willingness of politicians to be demagogues, he said. They don't care if what they're saying is true or not, as long as they get reelected. There are signs that the reefer madness cycle has returned to the violence theme, another theme, right? Crazy, you're going to be a murderer, you're going to be nuts. Yeah. Earlier this summer, Fox News host Laura Ingraham ran a segment in which she connected cannabis legalization to the mass shooting at an elementary school in Uvalde, Texas. This month, Arkansas Republican Senator Tom Cotton tweeted that legalizing marijuana often means more crime, more violence, and more impaired driving. Well, that's not true. Studies have found that this is not true, but it just doesn't matter. Conservatives are currently building a case to Democrat-run big cities that are crime-ridden cesspools, right? For the first time in history, all of America's biggest cities have legal cannabis. It may be hard to say that hustler-friendly New York and Chicago are full of shiftless wastes. It may be easier to claim that these cities are crime-infested. Cannabis can then be presented as the handy culprit when that need arises. Yeah. It's a shifting narrative responding to whatever is in culture at that time, Lee observed. The contradictions don't matter. And it is just constant contradictions. I mean,
Yeah, it's brutal.
It's a shift. It's all political and... Ugh.
Of course. When you go and see homeless on the streets in any major city, they're not smoking. They're smoking weed, but they're not smoking weed that got them there.
Right.
I mean, they're smoking. They're all. It's the Oxycontin, the oxycodones, oxykittens that got them to be on the streets because it took over their whole entire life.
Heroin, crack, yeah, cheap.
But
street
now
drugs.
it's pills.
Right.
And then they can't get the pills anymore, so then they go to heroin.
Right.
And then they're
now
hooked.
they're fentanyl.
They're done.
Right. Well, and this kind of got away from, I mean, the whole premise of this, they went into like a little back history in this article about the war on drugs and the stereotypes are there because it's a continued war, really, in terms of cannabis. It's still a war on cannabis.
Yeah.
And so it, like they're saying, it's just a shifting narrative. We went on a little tangent on the side, but really it comes down to the stoner stereotype. I hear it all the time. I mean, I bring cannabis up in conversation very frequently. It's something that I like to just throw it out there in an odd group of people when maybe there's a lull in conversation. Throw something out, or if someone brings
What's your
cannabis
opening
up.
line? Hey, you ever smoked cannabis before?
No, I mean, I guess I wait for something to trigger that conversation. If I find a nice avenue into that seems natural to go into it. I've always been one to challenge.
Or you just throw a joint at the table going,
yeah,
who's smoking?
let's smoke.
Let's
I have done that.
I know.
I have done that. Anybody want to smoke?
You've thrown edibles on the
Anybody
table,
want
too.
an edible? Yeah.
Has anybody ever surprised you and going, yeah, I have seen
I've
it.
had, yeah.
I've had some
definitely.
surprises.
Definitely. There's always a surprise in the bunch.
You?
The person you least expect. And they're like, heck yeah, give me that.
That's funny.
Okay.
New cannabinoid, THC-B. And we've talked about P. It's an extremely trace cannabinoid that makes up 1% of the cannabis chemical composition. But B was discovered in 2019. But it's actually having some very big lift right now. because it was unearthed right around the same time as THC-P was, one of the most popular psychoactive cannabinoids on today's hemp market. B has roughly the same strength as P, with the strength around 30 times stronger than Delta-9. B is quite unique. Effects are extremely potent by comparison. One thing it's important to know is because of how new the cannabinoid is, there isn't a ton of wealth of information. So remember that. But this is supposed to get you higher than Delta-9, right up there with THC-P. It's becoming a very popular cannabinoid, and it's much stronger, and it's going to get you really high. So I have not tried it. I have not seen it. But just to let you know, there's another new cannabinoid. If you need a little bit heavier, something to help you out medically, there it is. It has some health benefits, which is great. It's great for sleep. It seems to promote a shorter sleep onset time. Ooh, I like that. The effects can reduce levels of physical discomfort within the body by regulating the nervous system's pain response, while also having a potential anti-inflammatory effects. So it's a new one. Check it out if you need something stronger. I'm sure you could find it in probably a lot of like hemp-driven cities and states. So 4,300 scientific papers in 2022. 4,300. I was going to say 4,200 because, me, 420. So, but 4,300 scientific papers. That's crazy. We probably read a lot of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Not 4,300.
300.
No, but we've probably read a good couple hundred.
Okay, so here's something in the United States.
Why are you so serious?
Because I just was doing a little side research because this article is named Cannabis Researchers Published 4,300 Scientific Papers in 2022. Okay. So that probably took all year to do all of that, right? Many different researchers, whatever, different places, different cities, different schools, different wherever they're doing this research. Didn't our president of the United States just sign a bill to reintroduce legitimate cannabis research?
Yeah, he just signed it. We read it a couple weeks ago.
So why do we not consider these 43 scientific papers legitimate research? Because why? It doesn't explain that in the article. I was very confused. I'm like, if the bill is just being passed now to do research. Okay, so we know in Mississippi, we've talked about it on our show a number of times, that when the war on drugs hit in 1937 and Anslinger was in office and he just shut down cannabis, right? And demonized it.
Right.
But the University of Mississippi has had a cannabis program. They have researched cannabis since, I don't know, the 70s or something like that. Yeah. They've been researching cannabis there consistently. But for things... we don't really know. I mean, I'm sure there's reviews that you can go out and find, and you can probably find a book on all the research that they did. But my point being, so researchers are just doing this research. You can't get grants because grants are federal money.
No.
So you can't get paid to do this research. So people are just doing this research independent.
Did it talk about other countries too, though,
but then the bill just got passed. So will it backdate and say, okay, if you meet all the qualifications for a study, then we're going to use this study that was done in 2022.
The federal government will publish it then.
Maybe. We don't really know anything about that. Both of us, we don't. But
no. But I'm still
it just made my wheels spin. I did just look back to see if there was like a historical timeline for cannabis research, and it does say that in Pharmacology, Marijuana Tax Act, we know in 1937, discontinuation of medical studies on cannabis in 1945. So 7 years after cannabis was out, they said no more research. But then there was still research. I mean, like you can see on this timeline that there's still research. Anyway, well, okay, I'm going into my article now. It was just my wheels got spinning on that. Because why aren't these legit? Like, why don't these get counted? Just because... I mean, if they were doing the studies in Colorado or California for the last 10 years, they've been legal there.
Yeah.
So you're not... you're not breaking a law by researching it.
The state.
I don't understand.
But also, they probably
researchers
they might get
help us understand
private
money.
investors.
Yeah,
That give them so they could do the research.
It could just be a passion project. Someone
Passion
just does
project,
it.
yeah.
All right. Or someone wants to, to be able to do the research when the research hasn't been done yet. You're the first one. You discover some really cool advancement or finding about cannabis.
Right.
Wouldn't you want to be that person?
Yeah.
If you're a researcher? Yeah, why not? Okay, I'm done. Normal. Right? We all know what normal is.
I'm not, but...
You're not normal. I'm not normal. But there's an organization called Normal without an A. They recently announced that according to PubMed.gov keyword search, there were more than 4,300 scientific research papers published about cannabis in 2022. In 2021, there were 4,200. Over the last 12 years, there were more than 30,000 research papers that have now been published. And in total, there are approximately 42,500 scientific papers exploring cannabis. While it's common to hear opponents of cannabis state that more research is necessary for legalization to occur, Normal Deputy Director Paul Armentano released a statement to counter that argument. Despite claims by some that marijuana has yet to be subject to adequate scientific scrutiny, scientists interested in studying cannabis has increased exponentially in recent years, as has our understanding of the plant, its active constituents, their mechanisms of action, and their effects on both the user and upon society, Armenetto said. It's time for politicians and others to stop assessing cannabis through the lens of what we don't know, and instead start engaging in evidence-based discussions about marijuana and marijuana reform policies that are indicative of all that we do know. Normal compiled numerous scientific studies involving cannabis between the year 2000 and 2021, exploring findings from studies on a wide variety of medical conditions, such as chronic pain, Huntington disease, insomnia, multiple sclerosis, post-traumatic stress disorder, and so many more. The review analyzes the evolution of researchers' scope of cannabis. As clinical research into the therapeutic value of cannabinoids has proliferated, so too has investigators' understanding of cannabis's remarkable capacity to combat disease, Normal wrote. Whereas researchers in the 70s, 80s, and 90s primarily assessed marijuana's ability to temporarily alleviate various disease symptoms, such as nausea associated with cancer chemotherapy, scientists today are exploring the potential role of cannabinoids to modulate disease. Whoa. Even recently, the scientific community has released many intriguing cannabis studies. One recent study published in the Journal of Sleep Research found that cannabis was an effective treatment for insomnia, with researchers stating that participants experienced an increase of 80% sleep quality, and 60% were no longer classified as clinical insomniacs following the end of the 2-week study. Another study found evidence that cannabis has uniquely beneficial effects on those with bipolar disorder, while one found a link between cannabis consumption and physical activity in HIV patients. And there are many more studies underway, such as King College London, which recently launched a massive 6,000-person study in September, with a goal of publishing early results in 2023 or 2024. Okay, so this just blows my mind, too, because I take a medication for a health condition that is chronic, and this medication, it's only been available, like in the last, I think, 3 years, 2 medications have become available for my condition. It's a rare cell disorder. So these medications are very, in my opinion, understudied, but they're FDA approved. So
a lot of side effects.
It's crazy. So the first medication did not work for me. It was just making me too sick. Get to the second medication. I've got all sorts of side effects, but it is helping the condition from what we can tell. Crazy thing is, Like the primary side effect is that you could have a brain bleed, have a massive stroke, and die.
You could also murder
Very
me.
common. No, I couldn't stop.
There's one that says they give you mass murder. Yeah.
Well, no, it does not say mass murder. It says that you could have like crazy thoughts and
you could kill me in my sleep.
and hostile behavior. Anyway, the craziest part. It's not really funny. There's a lot of people that rely on medications that do that kind of stuff. I don't think you're funny, Mr. Weedman.
I'm just laughing because you can actually mass murder. You can kill me.
It does not say that. Okay. Back on track. So the crazy part to me is that you are going to take this medication, and this is a lot of medications, right? You're going to take a medication, and the medication is going to give you side effects, and then they're going to want to give you a bunch of medications to counterbalance those side effects.
And you told
boom,
them
boom,
no.
boom, boom, boom. And I just said, no, I'm taking the medication. We're not going to go with those other things. I'm getting derailed here. My point being that this medication, the FDA approved last year for my condition. It's been used for some different cancer therapies before that. The study was like 54 people over 2 years. And like 34 of them had some level of effectiveness from the medication. So the FDA says that's good. Go for it. Because 34 people didn't hemorrhage out of their brain. And I'm just blown away by that. But here, they're going to have, there's all these,
study.
All these studies over all these years, all these people.
Right.
And we're still saying that this is bad. But the FDA approved drug that was studied for 2 years on, 50 people or whatever, ridiculous. They're going to give it to you.
I have to sleep with one eye open.
And we only studied it for 2 years, but you take it for the rest of your life.
I have to sleep with one eye open.
Give me my weed. Give me my weed. Okay. You shush. That's not even funny. You're a jerk. So,
I love
cannabis is more mainstream than it has ever been before. President Joe Biden's recent monumental signing of the Medical Marijuana and Cannabidiol Research Expansion Act, which establishes a new registration process for conducting research on marijuana and for manufacturing marijuana products for research purposes and drug development. Biden also signed an infrastructure bill in 2021, which contained provisions for cannabis. It states that in 2 years, the Attorney General and Secretary of Health and Human Services must submit a report that addresses how researchers can receive increased samples of various strains, establishing a national clearinghouse that will help researchers better distribute cannabis products for research, and an increased amount of samples for researchers who don't live in states with medical or adult use cannabis legalization. So that kind of answers like some of my conundrums that I was having, but
you're having
it's
a couple
interesting.
Conundrums.
I was. And I was having a hot flash through the midst of all that. I'm great. Let's keep moving. Go, Mr. Weedman.
Nearly 40,000 cannabis records automatically cleared in Connecticut days before adult use sales start. Pretty good. That governor kept her word. Pretty big. Or kept his word. One of them. I don't know. But the governor, Ned Lamont, did keep his word. So, good. 42,964 cases. Wisconsin governor calls for meaningful conversation on legalization cannabis in inaugural address. He said he knows he has to work with the Republicans. He has to work with a lot of everybody to get this going, but he's going to do his best to get it somewhat done this year. Good for him. FDA developing regulating pathways for cannabis-derived ingredients in foods, supplements, oversight plans expected in a few months. If they approve it and FDA approves it fully, you're going to see fucking CBD in everything. Every major company can be like, CBD? You want some CBD?
It's going to be in your cereal.
Fucking everywhere. Watch. Oh, my goodness. Washington, D.C. passes...
I can't imagine. FDA, they won't even they don't even approve vitamins.
They're a lot of money. $18.1 billion in hemp going to be coming along pretty soon. Because they don't want to be responsible for people making claims on vitamins, the FDA. because there's so many vitamins out there, and people
Right.
make claims that they have to approve all the claims and test, and they don't want to fucking do that. Washington D.C. passes bill to expand medical weed sales. Good. They're going to help it out with the gifting program. That's great. And patients can self-certify to use medical cannabis. I want to self-certify every day. Well, I can just self-certify myself and go right to the medical dispensary. South Dakota activists plan new cannabis legalization bill. They're going all at it for 2024, but there's going to be people going at them in 2024. So go get them, South Dakota. All right. Plant disease threatening Massachusetts. Huge cannabis growing industry. Ooh, that means there's some bad growing going on if there's big viruses going on through their plants in Massachusetts. Ooh, it's going to be hard to get rid of. It's going to be hard to get some stuff going out there if it wipes everybody out for a minute. We talked about some plant diseases going on a while back ago, too. So, ooh, don't let it spread. And people, make sure you know what you're smoking, too. So, habits for cannabis users. What are some habits to start developing, good, bad, whatever, in 2023? Mrs. Weedman.
Right. Well, there's nothing quite like getting the opportunity to start fresh. Here are some ways you can reboot your relationship with cannabis in the new year. As you wrapped up another year, you may have contemplated the things you did well and those you could improve upon. Many people make resolutions this time of year, and others opt to simply improve upon the past and slowly develop some new habits. If you're a regular cannabis user, you might have some new habits you are trying to form, or maybe one or two old ones you're trying to break. There are all sorts of ways you can incorporate new positive habits into your cannabis-friendly lifestyle. Whether you want to cut down on how much you spend on weed or learn more about what you're smoking, this list of the top 5 habits to develop in the new year will have you ready to embrace 2023 with an optimistic and focused mindset. So, number 1, educate yourself on your local weed. According to Gallup, 16% of Americans use weed, and 48% have at least tried it. While this accounts for millions of people, only a small percentage of these users are likely to know much more than the classic differences between sativa and indica. If you regularly use cannabis, make it a point to learn more about exactly what you're smoking. Consider reading about the growers in your state. You might even learn why certain strains thrive in your region. Research landrace strains. Find out which growers are using environmentally friendly and organic growing techniques, and try and support those brands. People have grown much more conscious about the type of food they consume, and perhaps it's time we do the same when it comes to weed. 2, look into healthier ways to consume weed. Sure, it's considered healthier than lots of its alternatives like alcohol for socialization and opioids for pain, but smoking may not be helping your lungs. Smoking pretty much anything damages your lungs, and cannabis is no exception. Try reducing the amount of weed you smoke and switching to some lung-friendly alternatives. Edibles are an obvious choice, but if you're looking for more fast-acting products, consider beverages and alcohol-based tinctures. And there's alcohol-free based tinctures as well.
You free base, Mrs. Weedman?
Yeah, all the time, man.
Free base.
3, embrace activities with mindful breathing. In addition to seeking alternatives to smoking, you can also work to get the most out of your breathing. Mindful breathing has all sorts of benefits that can enhance the lives of any cannabis user. In addition to some mindful, simple breathing exercises, activities like yoga and meditation also incorporate breath exercise into many of their practices. This can help lower anxiety. Mindful breathing can help with burnout. It can provide certain types of pain relief and decrease negative thinking. So give breathing exercises and mindful breathing a chance. It can help your lungs and have all sorts of other benefits. 4, try folding exercise into your weed routine. Exercise is at the top of almost everyone's New Year's resolution list. Developing an exercise habit, however, is not always that easy, and some find incorporating cannabis into exercise helpful. It can minimize pain and inflammation and boost your energy. In fact, it can be helpful at mitigating all sorts of negative feelings you associate with exercise. So try a non-hazardous and low-impact cardio workout with weed and see if you find it easier to achieve your New Year's fitness goals. And 5, Schedule seasonal tolerance breaks. If you use cannabis daily, you have almost certainly noticed that over time you need more and more to feel the effects. In fact, you might find that the high you once felt now escapes you altogether. This is common with most substances, as our bodies develop tolerances to the substance. When you take a tolerance break, you're basically setting the clock back to day one. A tolerance break can help you save money, since you won't need as much weed to get high. It will also make your high more intense, since you're giving your body a break. Scheduling these breaks and sticking to them is the most effective way to ensure that your tolerance does not get out of control or lead to dependence.
I did a 1 day break. Remember I told you last week I was out of town and I just did 1 day, see if I was fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't even think, I said I'm just going to go 1 day without it.
Yeah. Some people just go like a week or two.
Yeah. You know, I went
Every
1 day.
few months, skip a few days.
Yeah. And I wasn't like, oh my God, I got to smoke weed, because weed doesn't control my life.
Right.
You know, so we were talking about, it was a good conversation. You know, it's supposed to be enjoyable. It's supposed to be for your body, for pain, for socially enjoyment. You know, it's not supposed to be a dependent.
Yes.
You know.
Habitual.
Yes. International news. French court overturns government ban on sale of CBD flowers. That's good. So it's going to be a multi-million euro industry, you know, and they're doing some rapid testing over there now, and that's nice. Good over there. They just need to legalize cannabis altogether. But an Italian army aims for self-sufficient cannabis market. So in Florence, Italy, it's a bid to become self-sufficient in the field of legal medical cannabis. Italy is growing plant-using secret nutrients in ultra-clean rooms managed with military precision. No one is called in the army to handle the task. Next year, the Italian service plans to produce 1,543 pounds of top-grade cannabis to cover nearly half of the 3,307 pounds required annually in the country for those that need pain relief, such as people with cancer and Parkinson's disease. That's crazy. Why is the Army in charge? The Army was handed the role of Italy's legal pot supplier for two reasons. Officials have said to produce cannabis at a secure facility, and because the armed service has been in the pharmaceutical business for decades, turning out chemical warfare antidotes and malaria pills for soldiers. The Army also manufactures so-called orphan drugs, medicines for rare disease of conditions that big companies ignore because of the low production rates. The service currently makes for such drugs to supply 3,000 people in Italy. As cannabis production ramps up, the Army has registered two types of cannabis it harvests as brands, FM1 and FM2, which stands for Farmaceutico Militari, military pharmaceutical in English. Each contains a different level of tetrahydrocannabinol, the compound that gives pot its high. Latour said the agency's activities facilitate a growing shift towards military involvement in public health sector, a trend accelerated by COVID-19 pandemic, which saw Army personnel set up treatment tents and transport vaccines. COVID made us see how public health is tied to the defense of the country and its security, he said. What do you think about that?
I don't know.
I mean, I do say the military is some of the finest doctors ever, some of the finest scientists, whatever. So, I mean, if they're doing it all, I mean, they're the best, right? Some of the best. So if that's what they're going to do, and they have some probably agricultural people that work in the military that are probably doing agricultural stuff throughout the state, throughout the country, you know, I mean, it makes kind of sense. Mm-hmm. But who's making the money? Is it going back into the military to fund the military and fund mass destruction? Or is it going back into the military to fund schooling and to fund better agricultural, using that money to go back into the government programs to help the military gain more knowledge on how to maybe become self-sustainable country, how to not have to, you know, to use better energy system, whatever, instead of like going into military mass destruction weapons. That's what it doesn't say in the article. Like, where is that money going? Mm-hmm. And are they selling it directly to the dispensaries in Italy, or are they opening up their own dispensaries and selling it? That's the question of when you're, when it's just weird. I don't know. I think it's great because the military has some of the best people, minds.
They're skilled.
Right.
Right. The training.
Right. Just want to know where that money's going. Are they putting it back into the country to help maintain programs? I don't know. Just weird. Our boy Snoop Dogg Our friend Snoop Dogg. Sorry, I didn't mean to call him a boy. Our friend Snoop Dogg, who we love. He's not even our friend. We just love listening to him. And we've seen him live a couple times. He's awesome. I mean, we've watched his career. And once again,
he's just a little bit older than us. So.
Yeah, he's like a year older than us. Yeah. So, and to watch his career, the up and downs, all of his albums, all the people he's helped produce, and all the cool things and fun things he gets to do, he's awesome. Once again, I didn't mean to call him a boy. My bad. So, but unbelievable. And he bought Death Row Records, right? And if you go back and you can read about everything or watch movies and anything that's happened with him in his whole entire career, so I'm not going to go that. But he bought Death Row Records, and now he's doing what, Mrs. Weedman?
He has unveiled Death Row Cannabis. Pretty cool.
Right.
Snoop Dogg announced today that Death Row Records, the legendary West Coast hip-hop platform featuring artists like Dr. Dre, Tupac Shakur, and so on, is entering the cannabis game with Death Row Cannabis. Death Row Cannabis will initially launch a trove of OG strains, including Runts, Strawberry Gary, and Tropicana cookies. The first drop arrives in limited edition commemorative metallic bags featuring the image found on the Death Row Records logo, if you look closely. Specifically designed for a Death Row Cannabis drop, the new rendering of the logo was designed for the launch of the brand. The main difference is that the new one has one hand broken free and holding a fat doobie. To create this drop and considering competition, Snoop Dogg zeroed in on one of the top cultivators around. The man who curates Death Row Cannabis is the one and only Mighty AK, hand-selected by Snoop himself. AK is best known for his role alongside former partner Wizard Trees in sprouting, selecting, and cultivating strains such as RS11, also known as Rainbow Sherbet No. 11, Studio 54, and Shirazi from breeder DEO Farms. AK is also behind the If You Know, You Know brand Smokers Only, and he is also the esteemed vice president of cultivation for Terp LLC, the company that owns a majority of the cookie stores across the nation. Oh, my Lord. That's a mouthful. Sorry, needed some water. And Terp LLC owns the majority of cookie stores across the nation, including their facilities in Florida. AK has also developed a reputation for his knack of cultivating fire OG strains. Death Row Cannabis will first be available at select cookie stores throughout California, with other locations and more states to follow. Pardon me. Under Snoop's recent leadership at his acquired label, Death Row Records, they're making a lucrative dive into cannabis. Snoop Dogg acquired Death Row Records in February of 2022, and he said, "It feels good to have ownership of a label. I was part of it at the beginning of my career. Stay tuned for more drops from Death Row Cannabis, soon to follow."
I mean, why not?
Yeah, I mean I want to try it.
Not even just that. Just Snoop Dogg getting
it just makes sense.
Makes 100% sense. I mean, he's
totally.
never hidden his cannabis
Exactly.
love, his love for cannabis since the day we started
it's part
following.
Of his,
yes, 100%.
His whole vibe.
Yes, I mean, he's the best. I mean,
have you ever seen him anywhere without a joint in his hand?
No, never.
I got to look back now when he did.
Oh, yeah, the Super Bowl. But he smoked it before he went on stage.
Yeah.
He didn't smoke it on stage, though. That's like one of the first shows ever. But he did smoke before he walked up on stage.
Yeah.
So there's pictures of it. So, I mean, but it makes perfect sense.
Yeah, it totally does.
And taking Death Row Records, which he helped build, you know, makes sense. Death Row Cannabis. Good for you, Snoop. The longest joint rolled to date. 98.4 feet, 2.2 pounds of weed, and 40 people to put it together. Huh. So, but yeah, they broke the record. So crazy. Good for them. Try to smoke that thing. It's not going to be fun, but they rolled a joint. A lot of paper, a lot of weed, but I could see the picture. It's really
How
long.
many pounds was it?
2.2 pounds.
Huh.
Yes.
Like the size of a baseball bat?
No.
Smaller?
Thin, like
oh,
yeah, like a typical joint size, you
what?
know, all the way down. Yeah, they probably put papers together and rolled it.
Right.
Put papers together, rolled it. You know, so you know, just kept on rolling papers and rolling papers and rolling papers. But
right.
I mean, 40 people to put it together.
That's pretty cool.
Impressive, you know. And it was architected, and the creator of the joint said in an interview they had been training for months. It's impossible to roll a 98-foot joint by bunching up above papers and just dropping the dry material on top of them. But when it's done in sections and with several people working as a team, we can do it. So, what was the cutoff time for the competition of this joint? 420, in case you don't know. April 420. We all know that. But you would need really powerful lungs to try to get a really hit off that. It's almost impossible to smoke, so they're going to break it into sections and stack it and then share it. So, kind of cool. Good for them. Yeah, that's kind of neat. I mean, just to say you did something like that. Some Illinois news real quick that just came out a little bit earlier today. If you all know, during COVID, curbside service, pickup service was a thing for medical patients here in Illinois. Right, and I was about to. It was going null and void as January 1st hit, and it was going to be no more. And a bunch of people, podcasters, journalists, medical patients, everybody was hitting up Springfield, sending their whatever, constituents were sending, just bombarding them to make sure this went to keep going. So as of today, the ID FPR issued another variance that would continue to allow medical cannabis dispensaries to dispense medical cannabis outside of the restricted and limited access areas for an additional 31 days beyond the previous expiration date of December 31st. So we got 31 days here to get them to make
another continuance, or just make
it permanent.
You know what's
so stupid, though? It should be... Listen. Why can't you have curbside service? Why can't you have drive-thrus?
Right.
You got enough cameras everywhere where you can just look at the person's face ID. They have to send their driver. You check their driver's license. It's just like a bank teller thing. You put it in the tube. It shoots up. And you send it back. And there's a camera right on that person's face to make sure you know it's them.
Right.
So many different ways. Curbside pickup is great, and needs to keep on going.
Yeah, definitely. Especially for patients.
Yeah, but it should be for rec too.
Even for anybody, especially for handicapped people, though. Or
Yeah, but if there's a person who's handicapped doesn't have their med card, but they need to go pick up, they should still be able to pick curbside pickup, whether you have a med card or not.
Right.
If you're handicapped, you should absolutely be able to go no matter what, anyway. So, I don't know. Hopefully Illinois fixes their shit and fixes their problems. I mean, it ain't all about those tax dollars there, Pritzker, and all you Springfield cronies. So, Mrs. Weedman.
Mr. Weedman.
That's the end of the show.
That was fast.
I know.
That was a very uplifting strain.
Yes, very nice.
I feel like
happy hour.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm not going to smoke that at bedtime.
That's a good
though.
social strain.
Great strain to have some people over and play some Uno or some train or just have a good old time. It's a good strain. Yeah. Good strain to watch a movie and you stay awake on.
Yeah, that too.
You were playing footsie with me the whole show, so
because I can't sit still.
Oh man! Also, Yuki turned 11 months.
Oh,
yeah,
baby.
She's gonna be a year next month.
Be a year.
I know. I can't believe it's been. You've all followed her. You've all followed her with us from the day we got her when she was 7.5 weeks old. So, but hey, Ms. Weedman.
Yeah.
Let's 2023. Let's do this. Everybody out there in the world, let's do it. Smoke some big fat doinks. Have a great one. We appreciate y'all listening. Check out 8decades.com. 8decades.com and like Mrs. Weedman on Instagram.
I'm lonely.
At 8
Be
decades.
my friend.
She has some great posts, man.
It's try.
Great. Fucking awesome. So, everybody out there in the world, we love you. Thanks for listening. As Paulie always says, smoke smart. Puff, puff, and away.
Puff, puff, pass.